call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to the Pod at the Palace. I'm your host, Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas. Shout out to the coffee club. It's nice that this year you get to sip on that mean bean a little bit, just knowing that you don't have a Wednesday night sadness game to play in like 2 hours. Because that's what we dealt with last year. Arkansas, did they lead that sucker off? I think they did. It was an early Wednesday game because I remember it was during our normal time slot for Inside Arkansas Live. So I think that was the case. Not our problem this year. Now you're going to have to put that pot on Friday evening because we might not tip off until, I don't know, 9 p.m. Central or something against whoever it is Arkansas is going to be playing. So if you want to stay bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for the post-game show, you might need that evening cup for sure. We got quite a bit to get into today. Believe it or not, I really wasn't sure for most of the day where we were going to go with this, outside of we knew that we were going to hear from John Calipari and got about 20 minutes with Coach Cal on Zoom, and he had quite a few notables. And so I want to share some of the highlights, some clips from that we can react to. I thought there was a very, very interesting NBA mock draft that came out that I want to break down. Not any of these idiots on draft Twitter, but somebody legitimate with sources who knows what they're talking about. And then yet another March Madness matchup breakdown to get into. A little bit of hate watch action. We're just bouncing around a little bit this week until we play basketball again. But that's okay. Should be a fun show. So let's go ahead and get into it. Shout out to our partners over at OZK Insurance. You guys know the drill. It's an independent agency that really can just shop a multitude of all those A-rated carriers. They're not tied down to anybody, which means they can find the best coverage and price for you. And they paired that now with a full-service mobile app. With the OZK Insurance app, you can see all your policies under one roof, pay your bills, request roadside assistance, file claims, whatever it is that you might need to do, you can do it all from one spot on the convenience of your phone. So listen, if you're tired of being stuck with one carrier or chasing down paperwork or having 4 different apps on your phone to deal with insurance and passwords to remember, don't worry about that now. Just go to ozkinsurance.com or search OZK Insurance in the App Store or Google Play. It's a local agency with national level options, one powerful app. That's OZK Insurance. Okay, so a few notes. I just want to, I didn't clip the entire thing, but I'll share a few highlights with you. And then I've got 3 specific clips that I wanted to play that we can stop and react to along the way. But obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, fortunately, thankfully, shout out to the media for asking some good questions today. I thought they did a good job. Was asked about Karter Knox, just an update on him. And I know everybody's curious, right? Is there a chance that he comes back? Is he out for the season? What's the deal? What's going on? He's with the team. Is he practicing? What's happening? He's not on crutches anymore. Oh my gosh. Listen, Cal said that he's progressing well. Rehab's going well, but that if he was going to have any chance to play, they might need to make like the Final Four. And basically what he's saying is it's unlikely that we're going to see him. He's not close yet. And if you think about it, man, I mean, obviously it's a process anytime that you have a surgery. And let me say this, like the glass half full part of this is, okay, so he didn't rule it out. You know what I mean? So you're saying there's a chance kind of deal. Sure. Okay, fine. But it ain't gonna happen this week. Do you remember how we kind of dealt with this with Adu Thero last year? And his timeline was a little bit accelerated because he hadn't had a procedure or anything done yet at that time. But as soon as he wasn't going to be available for obviously the SEC tournament or then the first weekend of the NCAA tournament, you were kind of like, well, what is this even going to look like if he does get cleared or is available? And we saw firsthand against Texas Tech, and it didn't look great. And now this is pushing that back even another week before even considering it. So I'm not getting my hopes up too much. I'm not holding my breath about what he would be able to provide, even if Arkansas did get that far. But it's a process, right? Anytime you have a surgery, I mean, you have to recover from all that. And then you've got to get all your range of motion back. And then you've got to build up all your strength. That way it's equal to the other side. And then you have to work on your conditioning. And then you start individual drills. And then you go to non-contact. And you wrap back up to full participation and contact work. And that's all assuming there's no swelling or no extra soreness or no setbacks. And long story short, I'm not personally expecting Karter Knox back at any point this season, but maybe, just maybe, get to the Final Four. Let's say maybe half the team fouls out in the title game. Maybe you have a ringer that you can turn to there down the stretch. I don't know. But at any rate, that was the update on Karter. Cal was also asked about Malique Ewin, and we're going to play some of the stuff from his conversation about Ewin, but he was asked specifically about, does he need a waiver for next year? Are you guys looking into that to get him, his year of eligibility back so he can return next season? And Cal was, he wasn't blowing off the question, but he just said they haven't started that process or those conversations yet, really, with Malique Ewin or anyone. And I think they're just very much locked in on the here and now, right? So I would imagine that's going to be on into the spring before we start to hear anything about what that looks like. And I'm sure, in fact, I had heard that there was some motion behind the scenes towards starting to make some progress on that. Doesn't mean that Cal's necessarily involved or aware of it or anything like that. That's probably more of a compliance thing. And what do I need to do to get the ball rolling on this type of stuff? So we'll see what that looks like on down the road, but nothing new from that standpoint just yet. Well, what about Darius Acuff, right? Because John Rothstein reported on Tuesday, middle of the day, that he would be available this week at the SEC tournament in Nashville. Okay, cool. I mean, we kind of thought and felt like that was the plan all along, and Cal confirmed as much on Tuesday. I cut up and combined several quotes. Obviously he just won Player of the Year and was asked about his injury and several things. I just kind of combined basically three responses from John Calipari on Darius Acuff, just shed a little bit more light into where things stand, what the process has looked like for him, what those conversations were like behind closed doors. I thought it was pretty interesting, so I'll play it. We'll stop it a little bit here throughout and discuss some of the things that Cal had to say.
Thought well-deserved, and, getting the Player of the Year, Freshman of the Year in this league, really difficult. It's only happened a few times in the history of the whole league. And hopefully giving him some time off, because I thought he did pretty good against Texas. When I watched it, I thought his tempo was pretty good, but he's still got to step on the gas some, and hopefully, that ankle's feeling a little bit better. No, he's been good. Yeah, I mean, we have no intention of holding him out, but we got 2 days of practice. Something happens. But
all right, did everybody hear that? So you heard it from the man himself, and he's going to talk a little bit more about. If you remember when Acuff when it was finally announced that he wasn't going to play in that game against Missouri last weekend, we were like, all right, either Cal finally put his foot down or Acuff finally agreed to it. And he actually addresses that a little bit in there. But I thought some interesting stuff there from Cal, obviously resting up the ankle. And I kind of agreed. I mean, I thought that he looked way better than he had the previous, 2, maybe 3 weeks when he was playing in that Texas game. But he still probably wasn't all the way there yet. And when he was talking about putting that foot on the gas, it's that burst. And he can kind of just blur by everybody in transition, a little bit more explosive, getting off the floor at the rim and things like that. And I think that's this little extra gear that he has. And that's where I think this rest really, really comes in handy. But here's some more from Cal.
The whole plan was give him some time, let him be closer to 100%, and, let's go. So, he's practicing today. I'll probably, if stuff's a little bit too much body to body, I'll probably keep him out. But like I said, he wanted to play that last game. I mean, people that watched him on the bench could tell. And when I saw him in the training room this morning, I said, "How you feeling?" He said, "I'm practicing today." I said, "Well, yeah, and there are times I'm going to pull you out. But when you're in there, go really hard. And then we'll step you off the court."
I like that a lot, man. Not many coaches, especially guys like Cal. Think how many players do you think there are who could just look at John Calipari in the eye and tell him what they're gonna do? You know what I mean? Because he did that before the Texas game. Like after that Florida game, remember Cal talking about it, saying that Acuff came out of the training room and came up to him and said, "Yo, I'm coming back to practice. Like I've got to stop. I got to stop setting out. I got to ramp this thing back up." Just told him he was going to do that. He came to him after the Alabama game. He's getting ready to mention that, and he was like, "Hey, I think maybe you need to set out one here." And Acuff's like, "No, no, I'm not doing that. What are you talking about, man?" And then going up to him today, he's like, "Yo, I have my days off now." Because what they play Wednesday, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I mean, that's 5 days. And then Tuesday was their first practice back and just easing them back into it. Like Cal said, if they were doing, live contact type of stuff, then maybe hold him out for that and just kind of ramp him up a little bit more and a little bit more every day as they get closer to Friday. That seems to make a lot of sense there, but he's right. I mean, we remember watching Acuff sitting on the bench over there, happy for his teammates. It was almost like an assistant coach out there, but you could just see it in his eyes that it was eating him alive to not be out there. Ain't no way that he was going to agree to sit out for another game. So I like that Cal is like, no, we have no intentions of setting him out this week. And I guarantee you Darius Acuff doesn't have any intentions of setting out himself.
On everything we've asked, it would have been easy for him to, take off or shut it down. We got guys shutting it down. He's like, not doing that to my teammates. And I'll say it again. You guys all know that we're here before the last Missouri game, not the one we just played. I told him, I think you need to sit out this game. You just played 50 minutes against Alabama. And he stopped me. He said, "Coach, I'm not sitting out. We just lost. We got to win that game." That was him. This last one, he did. I let him. I heard him, but he had no chance to overrule me on that one.
I'm sorry, man. I love when Coach Cal gets going a little bit. He was like, I heard him, like I'll hear you out, man. I'll listen. Go ahead and get it off your chest, but I'm not budging on this one, bud. You already played your trump card for the year. You got to tell me no once, and it ain't happening again, my guy. So that's pretty good stuff from Cal.
And, our team came together. I told him, our team played with unbelievable energy. I said, "Why do you think that was?" He says, "I don't know." I said, "Maybe because you weren't in there." So, I'm still coaching him, telling him I'm not satisfied.
All right. We heard enough about that. I love that. It's just, it's like the flip side, right? Because we're saying, okay, well, how many, players could look Coach Cal in the eye and tell him no, or, "Hey, I'm not doing what you're telling me to do. I'm playing. I'm not sitting," whatever. And then how many coaches are there who could look at their star player like Darius Acuff and be like, "Yo, maybe we play better on defense and we have more energy because you weren't out there." I'm sorry, man. It just tickled me. I think it's funny. But good stuff there from Cal. Excited to hear that Darius is doing good and ramping things back up in practice. Can't wait to see what he looks like on some fresh legs this weekend. And, we'll see how long Arkansas is there at the SEC tournament and everything. But good omens for the Razorbacks. Hey, knock on wood. Do your rain dance, whatever, that it stays that way, but trending in the right direction for sure. So what are they doing at practice this week? We talked to Leak and Amir about that Monday out at Blue Ember, and they said that they had been off through Monday, did a little individual work, which we'll hear some more about in a minute from Coach Cal. But, Tuesday is when they got back into practice. It sounds like they're going to go full on Wednesday here. Thursday, maybe fairly light, and I think that's going to be a travel day. And then Friday shoot around and game day. The emphasis this week at practice, and I didn't clip all this up, but it's really focusing in on, and you guys will like to hear this, tightening the screws on defense. Heavy emphasis. They know that they have a championship level offense and they can score with anyone. That is not lost on these guys. They're not naive to it, but you don't want to fall on that. You don't want to rest on those laurels because all it takes is one game in the tournament, just one game or one half where the shots aren't falling like they normally do, and then you're out of there if you can't get stops. And Arkansas has made improvements really the last month of the season on defense. Now, there's been setbacks here and there. A game here or there where they really struggled in the paint. The Florida game, it got away from them. But by and large, I mean, if you really think about the way they defended, Missouri in the last game, the Texas game, I thought they looked really good. The way they defended Buckyball and Texas A&M, like there's been some promising defensive performances from this team. And coming out of the bye, remember how good they looked against Mississippi State and against LSU. I know those aren't great teams, but the way that Arkansas was flying around out there defensively, the chaos that they were creating, the havoc, the disruption, that they passed the eye test for a change. And over the course of the last month here, Arkansas has jumped up about 25, 30 spots in defensive efficiency. Are they great? No, they're not. Do they have a one glaring weakness? Yes, of course. We know exactly what that is. But are they getting better? They are. And do we know that they've got a pretty good defensive team in there? Yeah, we do know that. So I like it that they just really seem to be hammering home a sense of urgency on that end of the floor here. Cal mentioned DJ Wagner as a guy who he feels like has really come along as a vocal leader. And, he was that way by the end of last year, but think about how the season has gone this year. It's almost like, what is this dude going to say to anybody with the way he's playing now and with his confidence going? It's March. It's that time of year. He's the veteran out there that he's really stepped up and that he's flying around out there and giving them the type of stuff that they're looking for. He mentioned Billy Richmond naturally as a guy who has been given that type of consistent effort that they want from everyone. And he's like the lead by example guy. And then he mentioned Malique Thomas as a guy who basically they feel like has really come on strong as a perimeter stopper for them. And that I guess there's like 3 games in a row. They just put him on the other team's best player, and he wound up doing a really good job there, and it didn't impact his offense at all. So that's all good to hear. That's fine and dandy. But what do we just name? A point guard, a 2 guard, a wing. Well, we know that the problem area for this team is their interior defense, the 2-point defense. And he was asked individually, Cal was, about both Trevon Brazile and Malique Ewin. So I have put those 2 clips together to play, and we'll stop and react here and there. And, he wasn't asked about Nick Pringle, but there's not much to say about Nick, right? It's when he brings his energy, right? When he's got that juice to him, he'll compete on the glass. He'll be physical. He's going to get in foul trouble. But in the minutes he provides, he just needs to give you that max effort. With Trevon and Ewin, it's all about – there's just zero question whatsoever about their ability. And I think that's going to be the common theme that you see. Cal's going to be saying a lot of the same things about both of these dudes. And now it's all about, okay, we can't afford to have any more ups and downs with you guys. There can't be any nights off, or I didn't bring it, or this hurts, so I'm losing focus or whatever. No, it's nut cutting time. So both these guys got to be geared up and ready to go. I'm going to play the clip. He's going to start here by talking about Trevon, and then he moves on to Ewin by the end of the clip.
He just has to be more consistent. His mindset coming in, his preparation, so that he can just play. You're not thinking. You're not trying to take drills off. You're not trying to do what's easiest. You're in there getting treatment like crazy, so you're not ever saying it's a knee, it's an ankle, it's this, it's that. Just got to be more consistent. He's had a terrific year. He really has. And now for us, he's going to have the kind of games that he had the last couple. In the range. He doesn't have to be way above them, and all, just be in the range.
100% agree with that, because he's leveled up a little bit. So on the year, he's averaging 13-7, and we've seen games where he's gone above and beyond that, like he did last week in both games. And then we've seen other games where he's gone below that, and he just doesn't seem as engaged, as locked in. And he's talented enough to where even when that's been the case, he'll go out there and have, how many times has he had like 9 or 10 points and 5 or 6 rebounds and, a couple blocks and a steal or whatever. And it's like, okay, he's kind of low key stuff in the stat sheet, but we know he's better than that. We know he has more in him. He's more talented than that, and we give, Ryan, and I hope you're listening this morning, but from the chat, we have all the banter back and forth all the time. Sometimes he gets a little bit carried away. The criticism turns personal, whatever. But his entire premise, I agree with. Okay. It's really not like a hate for Trevon Brazile. It's, man, this dude is so talented. Why can't he just do the good stuff more often? And the truth is it's really, really hard to do. But I just think there could be a little bit less variance between his peaks and his valleys, because sometimes the lows are pretty low and then the highs are extremely high. And what Cal is saying here is you don't have to be at the peak every single game, but you got to be higher up the mountain every time and just be leveled off, not too high, not too low. That's okay. But they've got to have that baseline of production from him, because we know that when he's playing well, Arkansas is just kind of a different animal out there.
Part of it's offensive rebounding. That takes no skill.
Thank God that he said that too, because if you've been watching this show, I've been barking about Trevon and offensive rebounding literally all year. And that's something that I'm trying to remember which game it was, and I can't now off the top of my head, but Cal talked about that specifically with Trevon and Malique Ewin, how it's not just the number of offensive rebounds that you get, but the number of times you crash and you go try to get them. And that's the type of stuff they're charting now, is your effort even going to the glass. Because I think Trevon sometimes will get a little bit content with, okay, I'm playing big minutes. Where can I conserve my energy? I'm out on the perimeter a lot. So instead of doing the hard work, the effort play of crashing the glass hard and trying to get that offensive rebound and put back, well, I can just backpedal and get back on defense. That can be somebody else's problem. No. Arkansas needs those extra possessions. They need those easy buckets, those tip-ins, those tip slams like he was getting against Missouri, which was awesome. So more of that. I'm glad that Cal brought it up.
Yeah, we need a 3 or 2 from you. But all the other stuff he does, blocking shots, rebounding, flying, dunking balls in the offense, making free throws, things that don't take a whole lot of skill. I call them the easy things. Do those things really hard. And, if he does that, we're pretty good.
Yeah, I would agree. And so he's switching over to talk about Malique Ewin now. And we heard a little bit of this after the Missouri game in the post game, but one thing in particular I found interesting, if you think about Arkansas staff, if you look over there on the bench during any game, the number of assistant coaches, support staff, grad assistants, so many people out there who work with these guys on a daily basis. They've had a couple days off, and like Malik Thomas told us, some of those guys were able to get in there and do some individual work, and just some skill development stuff over the course of the last couple of days. And I'm sure Tyler Ulis is out there working with the guys, and Brad Calipari working with the guys, the grad assistants. For Malique Ewin, you get Coach Cal, buddy.
Yeah, and I worked him out yesterday. He was here. I had him come over, and I worked him out myself, and it was conditioning and different things. And I'm like, it.
I'm sorry, I just love this, and he's getting ready to make a really good point about it. But imagine being Malique Ewin, right? And okay, well, let's see. Leak went over and he worked out with Tyler Ulis today, and I don't know, like Darius is over and he was just shooting on the Noah machine, and whatever. So-and-so was in the training room. I guess I'll go over and get some work in. And then you walk in and, it's your time slot or whatever. And then it's just you and there's John Calipari. And you already know, man, because he's always on you about your motor and everything else. It's conditioning workout. So you got to love it.
Doesn't matter making shots, making layups, making free throws. That bothers you. It doesn't bother one soul on our staff. Just be alert, sprint the court on offense and defense, bounce on defense, be early, help, talk and pick and roll. If you do all those things, you're a natural offensive player. It'll happen. But you got to lock in on this defense. And that's some things we did yesterday. I kept telling him, I'm not giving up on you. So, let's go.
if Malique Ewin wants this to be his story, if he wants it to be his story, John Calipari is the best thing that ever happened to him. Truly. And think back to the narrative with Trevon, even at the end of Musselman's tenure. He's just the guy that was never going to meet his potential. You know what I mean? It's just not quite there. And we know that everybody responds to coaching a little bit differently. And look at the strides that Trevon has made over the course of the last couple years. From where he was then, when it was decided that, oh, well, actually, he is just going to come back and be on the team. And we were all just kind of like, okay, sure. To now, where we're kind of looking at TB going, damn, he might be the X factor of this team getting to a Final Four. And think about Malique Ewin. And we've talked about it a ton, so we don't have to give the whole spiel, but the entire thought process behind bringing him in, because he's such a skilled guy, we know that. Everybody sees it. But it's to get that motor running hot more consistently, to work that Boogie Cousins magic. You know, I should have said Bam Adebayo after he broke Kobe's record tonight, but that was shameful with them fouling to get him extra possessions. So he shot 43 free throws. What are we doing? That's a different topic for a different day. But you get my point with Malique Ewin. And he shows flashes, and now he's gone from, you know, a rotation where they give him what you're looking for to a half. And then you started getting it for a game. Then you get 2 or 3 games at once. But then there's always been that revert back to bad habits things. It takes a while to really be able to figure out that consistency. And for him, it's always been about, do you bring the same effort and the same energy and, frankly, the same want to and care on defense that you do offense? And so they're working with him on that. And I like it. I think that's a good thing. Okay, last clip, and then we'll move on to some other things pretty quickly, and we'll get out of here. I feel like he gets a little bit misconstrued. People like to say John Calipari, he doesn't even care about the SEC tournament. And that's about as true as the people who say, well, he doesn't even care about winning anymore. He's not worried about winning. It's only about helping families. Well, the winning of games is a byproduct of doing the things that are going to help you help those families. And winning in the SEC tournament is a natural occurrence when you have the bigger picture in mind. His shtick is not, we don't care what happens in the SEC tournament. It's, we're not going to put too much pressure on ourselves in this because we still have another step to go. And whether it's a regular season game or these tournament games, everything that we do as a program is to try to prepare us for the NCAA tournament, which is up next. That's what he's talking about. There's a bigger game at play here. So instead of, acting like winning the conference tournament is do or die or make or break, the most important thing in the world, he's pretty transparent about how a lot of this is playing for their NCAA tournament seeding. Can you improve it? Can you maintain it? And then winning along the way is going to help answer those questions. He talks about that here, and then he goes into what their preparation is going to look like over the course of the next couple of days, because there's 3 different possibilities on who they might play. They have no idea. They're not going to know until late Thursday night. So what's going to go into that? And then I included just a little bit. We'll see how much we get to. He got on a soapbox rant about coaches in this league getting fired. And I thought it was highly entertaining. So here's what Cal had to say about the SEC tournament this week.
I'm not worried about anything. It's just that you are playing to hold your seed, to improve your seed. That's what you're doing. And if that means you keep winning, then you keep winning. But, your whole thought, like last year, we had to win that first game to make sure we were in. And this thing is, how much can we improve our seed?
Which, by the way, you can improve it by 1 and get to a 4 if you make Championship Sunday. Just want to get in there and throw that out there. Can you mess it up? I really don't think so. You're probably going to be a 5. Best case scenario, you're a 4. And I think worst case scenario, you're just a 5. I think that's where Arkansas is at.
There's no worry. It's just that let's understand that we're playing for something even bigger than just this tournament. first of all, when you don't know who you're going to play, it's not all bad because you just lock into yourself.
Bingo. That's exactly right. Because that's all you can do. And they're going to have guys on that staff who are responsible for the scout for all three of those teams. And they'll be prepared no matter what. But you can't get too caught up in that. It's not like they're going to be at practice on, Wednesday here or even Thursday doing the thing where it's like, okay, we're going to work on this a little bit because in the event that South Carolina makes it through, we got to be prepared for this action. No, it's none of that. They're going to be working on them. That's why they've been emphasizing their own defense and doing their own things and working on themselves and the individual stuff. And yeah, once you get to Thursday, you'll have one of those teams eliminated. So you have a better idea. But as he's getting ready to point out here, I guess it's going to be late Thursday night. This is going to be when that game is decided, here comes the film. Here's your scouting report. Let's lock in on the opponent then. And we got all day on Friday to think about it. We got shoot around. We'll have, team meetings and everything like that. But up until that point, this is really about Arkansas and getting to where they need to be heading into the postseason.
Is there anything that we need to do a little different or try? Is there anything we need to add to us offensively or even defensively? And so now we got 2 days to do it, today and tomorrow, and then maybe even Thursday where we can touch on stuff. We'll have an idea of the two teams by Thursday, but we're not going to know till 11 o'clock on Thursday night who we're playing the next day at 8:30. And so, all three teams, are good. They're capable of beating us. When I watch tape, both teams could have beat us. We got South Carolina, but South Carolina got us by 50 last year.
Cal does this, man. It's like when those players that they used to see in the tournament, they were 23-year-olds, and then next thing you know, he's like, and now we're playing 29-year-olds. And then it's like, South Carolina beat us by 25 last year. Now they beat us by 50. The point is, they got their butt kicked. So you can't take anything for granted, no matter who it is you play. And if you see South Carolina, frankly, that would have meant they beat a red-hot Oklahoma team, and then they took down Buckyball, an NCAA tournament team. So whoever makes it to Arkansas on Friday is good for it, because that means they've done some good things leading up to that point to be able to face you at all.
So they're all, and let me say this, Porter Moser, the job he's doing, they were 1-6. We were 1-6, if you remember, a year ago. To keep his team together, to keep them fighting. I think they finished 8-2 the rest of the way. In the last 9 games or something like that, they were 8-2. And they played well. They won games, buried some people, won close games. And let me say this, I'm glad we're doing this so I can say it. All these administrations that are talking about changing coaches, well, whatever you're going to invest to change the coach, why don't you invest it in NIL and let the guy go and see how he does? If they were under NIL, less than the other people, give him more. And if he can't do it then, okay. But I laugh and say, but you're willing to change and spend more money and give the guy more money that comes in. Why don't you just give this guy you have who can really coach? And I'm not saying Porter, I'm saying everybody. This is a time of the year where we're just going to make a change because people are upset. Let me tell you, you want to make a change, then how about make the guy you have right now, give him a better opportunity to win? And I say that for all coaches. It's changing the answer if you got a guy that can coach.
All right. Hey, I like that he's championing for his peers right here. Stop giving the other SEC schools the idea of upping their bags. What are we doing here, man? Unless you know for sure that you're going to be able to level up beyond them, which, let's be honest, they're going to be able to. We just saw everything that happened with Tyson Chicken. Stop encouraging them to get more money. What are we doing? I'm just kidding. I like that. That's good stuff. And I tend to agree with him on Porter Moser. I don't even know how they landed on Porter Moser, honestly, during their last coaching search. But I was, if you guys recall, I think I picked Oklahoma 7th way back, like at the beginning of the season. I had them there in SEC play. I was pretty impressed with the roster that they put together. It underachieved for the longest. It took them a while to figure some things out. They're playing really good ball right now. It's probably going to be too little, too late for them. But what are you going to do? Are you going to go find a better coach than Porter Moser, pay him more than you're paying Porter Moser, and then inject more NIL into the program? I don't know if you're going to do that. But the question is, what's going to be the vibe of the fan base? Have they done enough here down the stretch to where butts are going to be in seats next year if Porter Moser's still there? That's the question. That's the driving factor in all this. Like, yeah, it's always money, right? Okay, well, how much NIL? What's my payroll going to be for my roster? All those things, sure. But it's also, how many tickets are we going to sell? What is all that going to look like? What's the support going to look like? What's the tenor of the fan base going to look like? And those, I think, are bigger parts of the conversation maybe than some of these other things about whether or not to retain a guy. So I'll be interested to see what happens with Moser. I saw that they're bringing Lamont Paris back at South Carolina, and I think he's a classic example of it. He's proven that he can win in this league. They had that great year a little while back, but now they are at the bottom of the conference when it comes to NIL. So you can't really get mad at him for losing a bunch of games when he's got half the payroll of anybody else in the league, pretty much. So if you want to fire him and bring somebody else in, first of all, who is going to be the upgrade that's going to take that job, knowing what resources, the little resources that they have? Or maybe, just maybe, you find that man some more cash and you say, all right, now you can compete. Go out here and do it. And like Cal said, if you don't do it this year, then all right, see ya. Sorry about you. We gave you an opportunity. So we'll see what happens. Porter Moser, McMahon over at LSU. I know people are going crazy about Will Wade and everything again. Those are probably the main ones, I guess, in the SEC. Then if anybody else gets poached, right? Like if as people are like, oh, is Todd Golden going to go to the NBA? He's going to go to Kansas when Bill Self retires at the end of the year or something. That stuff's floating around out there. But Rick Barnes, is he gonna stick around? Is he gonna retire? What's gonna happen? That's always been a question with him for the last several years. Outside of that, I don't. Chris Jan seems like he's been trying to get out of Mississippi State since he got there. But where are you gonna go after this year that you had? He's not as hot of a commodity anymore. Chris Beard, I don't think is going to be able to go anywhere after this season. So I don't know. They're not going to fire Stephen Pearl this year. Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be that much job movement in the SEC. We'll see. One of these guys is going to go. At least one, I would have to think, of McMahon and Porter Moser is going to have to go here. The thing about McMahon is they did this last year with him where they said, hey, we're going to retain you, but we're going to fork over some dough and let you go spin in the portal and build a roster. And then that happened, and here they are, last place in the SEC. Now, the caveat to that is Jalen Reed was their former 5-star McDonald's All-American. He goes down 9 games in the season. Deaton Thomas is the point guard who they spent all their money on in the portal. He goes down at the beginning of SEC play. So it's like, how much difference have those guys have made? Probably enough to have them at least very much on the bubble. But it's hard to say. So who knows? We'll find out pretty soon. I guess probably with those guys in particular, like right after Selection Sunday or something, or maybe even after they bow out here in the SEC tournament. So it might be later today for all we know. At any rate, hey, shout out to Blue Ember. What else can we say about Blue Ember Smokehouse at this point? Those are our people over there, man. We appreciate them. Obviously hosting for our Malique Thomas, Amir Brown, Pot the Palace event that we had the other day. That was a blast. And they were awesome. They were gracious, more food than we knew what to do with. It was really, really cool. And, you know, I don't want it to be lost on anybody because we're out there all the time. Some really good eats. You got to go over there and check it out. I see those ribs right now. You know, my Pot at the Palace hoodie still smells like Blue Ember. I did laundry today, and I didn't wash that hoodie because I wasn't ready to get rid of that smell just yet. But they've got locations all over the state. Fort Smith, Jonesboro, Texarkana, Little Rock, Hot Springs, and Rogers. I had somebody send us a picture on social media that said, hey, the ad reads are working. Finally went to the Jonesboro location. He sent us a picture of the spread, the plate that he got. And I was like, that's what we're talking about right there. Just go check it out. And I guarantee you're going to go back again. It's really good stuff. And they'll cater for you. Weddings, parties, business events, meetings, whatever you might have going on. You see the phone numbers on your screen. So contact the individual locations for more information on pricing, or scan the QR code, or just go to their website, www.blueembersmokehouse.com. Okay. Here we are again. You know, I was taking some notes for all this. I kind of knew the Calipari segments would take a little while. I just get to talking to him, and I get in I get a zone when I'm listening to him, and get to talking about him. But here we are. You know, it's going to be an hour-long show again. It's just that time of year, man. A new NBA mock draft came out, and like I said, this is not some idiot's draft board who has Microsoft Excel and, you know, the ESPN app or something. This is not draft Twitter. This is somebody who is plugged, who is a professional, who's a legit evaluator, who talks to scouts and GMs and front offices and staffs, and has a real feel and a real sense for what this stuff looks like. It's Jonathan Wasserman, Bleacher Report. Does a fantastic job. He's my go-to. And he released a pre-postseason mock draft update. And there are a few hogs on it. Darius Acuff, obviously. He was at number 8 on this. And they did a player comp for him of Stephon Marbury. Go figure. We've heard that one. 8, I think is fair. I think it's reasonable. For me, I'm not that guy who's going to be, banging down the door saying he's got to be the number 1 pick. Why isn't he in the same, tier as Cam Boozer? I'm not doing that. I get irritated with the folks that don't even have him in their first round or outside of the top 20. That's ridiculous. He is, no doubt about it, a lottery pick. And I think he belongs in the top 10. So any mock draft that I see that has Acuff in the lottery, that I'm saying, okay. But in the top 10, that I'm saying, all right, this is a ball knower. So good to see that. Malique Thomas, 25. So safely in the first round in this projection. It was a pretty interesting write-up that they had about him, just talking about his shot making and his ability to space the floor, and how he's shown, a deeper bag and more of his arsenal in terms of, off the bounce and his floaters and his mid-range package and everything like that. It's kind of been impressive. And the one thing that it said is, essentially that he might be a guy who goes to the combine and really shines, because they're going to want to see more creation, more off-ball creation, and it's a little bit difficult for him to showcase his full arsenal when you play alongside a guy like Darius Acuff. That doesn't make Acuff a selfish player. It doesn't make them a bad fit for each other, but there's some truth to that. So right now they've got him safely in the first round, but he's also a guy who could go to the combine in some different situations, go through the drills, workouts with the teams, and is somebody who could stand to continue raising his stock. So there you go. All right. If you're wondering where this is trending, there you go. There was a third Razorback on this. It's Trevon Brazile. And this made me incredibly happy because I was kind of scrolling through, and I got to 48. So, mid-late second round, whatever. And there was TB. And his player comp, by the way, Malique Thomas's player comp was Jordan Clarkson. And I thought that was interesting. Not a bad one. And for Trevon Brazile, it was Obi Toppin. And that is game recognized game when it comes to dunkers, right? High flyers out there. And that's kind of what I was talking about. Lob threat, pick and pop guy who can stretch the floor, shot blocker, alterer. He's got the measurables. It's kind of overcome now that, some of the questionable injury history stuff. It's 2 straight years where he's been healthy. And, as a guy who could stand to benefit from sticking it out, man. and the Calipari angle helps him. Another March is going to help him. So I was really excited to hear that. He's out of eligibility for college. So the next step, it would be awesome after everything to see Trevon get drafted, man, just to hear his name selected. I think that would be pretty sweet. And so he's in there pretty safely, on this mock draft. And, again, I think a lot of those guys who are going to fall in that late first, but mainly early second round range are going to be looking at it. And a lot of them will probably elect to go back to school. If you're Arkansas, you hope Malique Thomas is one of those. We know that Cal's built differently in terms of how he operates from that standpoint, but there's going to be other cases like that. So maybe this could be a situation where Trevon kind of creeps up, and then he gets into maybe inside the top 40 or something like that. He's going to test well. They're going to see, 6'10" with a 7'4" wingspan, knocking down threes. His vert's going to be off the charts. He moves well. I was excited to see that. No Billy Richmond. I'm just saying. No Big Bill. After everything, he didn't appear on there. And I've seen a number of folks that I respect who do could theoretically get himself drafted this year, second round, somewhere like that, but could be kind of the Adu Thero arc of the third year breakout that kind of catapults your stock into no-brainer status. So that's going to be something for us to watch very, very closely. Arkansas gets that man back. Listen, all bets are up. You ain't scoring on the pig next year. So thought you guys would find that interesting. Wanted to share that with you. 3 Hogs, your 2-star freshman, Trevon Brazile, and no Billy. And then no Karter and other guys like that. But Billy was kind of one I've been watching for some of these updates as he's really broken out the last few weeks here. It's like, all right, is he going to start climbing those boards or what? And I think the sentiment in the industry right now seems to be that he would be one of those guys that could really boost his status by coming back another year. And that kind of seems like the anticipation of what might happen. Hope so. We'll see. Let's get into our little March Madness matchup breakdown here real quick, and then we'll talk about some hate watch action. We'll get out of here. The only current projected 12 seed at the bracket matrix that we haven't covered yet is Stephen F. Austin. And so congrats to the Lumberjacks. Like, today is your day. I actually made sure to watch their conference tournament game a little bit earlier tonight to make sure they won before talking about them. And they did barely. It was like a late layup. I think there was like 8 seconds left or something. And they held off. I think it was Corpus Christi that they were playing to win that game. And so they advanced to their finals. They play in their championship game at 4:00 on Wednesday. So they're not automatically in right now, but they are the 112 seed projected that we haven't talked about yet. So I want to go ahead and touch on them. If they lose, I will feel like I wasted 4 minutes of my life. But let's be honest, I do that every single day. This is another team that's just got a loud record this season against kind of a weak schedule. And the same as we talked about with Northern Iowa, like, that doesn't have to be Stephen F. Austin's fault. Like, it's nice to be able to, I think, look at these mid-majors and be like, oh, here's an SEC school that they played, or a Big 12 school that they played in non-conference. So we can kind of do the transitive property thing or whatever. But those schools also have to be willing to schedule. But the Jacks are 28-4 on the season. That's a great record. They cruise, man, 20-2 in the Southland Conference. And again, they still got to get through their conference tournament here, but they're the number 1 seed. They're in the final. I'm assuming, as I'm recording here, let me just check real quick to make sure, because it wasn't quite final yet when I started recording. But I want to see that McNeese made it through, because that was going to be the team that you had to watch for. They did. 3 overtimes. McNeese beat UT Rio Grande. So it'll be Stephen F. Austin versus McNeese in the championship game. Looking at their schedule, their losses this season, they only got 4 of them, came by 2 points at Fresno State team that we saw Arkansas beat up on in North Little Rock, if you recall. They lost at UT Arlington in November. Since January 1st, they have 2 losses. One was at McNeese in a 2-point game, and then they had a 4-point loss to New Orleans. So you're thinking, what the heck? That is a New Orleans team that beat TCU and took Mississippi State to overtime in Starkville earlier this season. So, okay, fine. For what it's worth, Stephen F. Austin, they also beat both. They beat McNeese and New Orleans. They played them both twice. They split with them. Not much else on the resume, to be honest with you. Looking at it, 19 of their games are in Quadrant 4. They did beat Arkansas State by 25 the first weekend of the year. So there's that. I got to be honest with you, of all the teams that we've talked about, and again, I always have to do the qualifier of every 12 seed, any matchup that Arkansas gets, if they're a 5, is going to be dangerous. But of all the ones we've talked about, I would probably rather see Stephen F. Austin than any of the others. I'd rather see him than South Florida. I'd rather see him than Yale. I'd rather see him than High Point. I think those teams are a notch above what Stephen F. Austin is. By the way, I've seen Arkansas projected against Stephen F. Austin a few times. I think the Field of 68 bracket has that as their matchup right now. So, and that's, by the way, that's no disrespect by any means, but like South Florida, they play in the best league of all these teams. They've got the most talent. And Yale is one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country. And they've got that upset pedigree. They've beaten SEC teams in the tournament in the last couple years. High Point, who we talked about, they're one of the highest scoring teams in the country, fewest turnovers in the nation. All these teams have something that I feel like really, really, really stands out about them. Like that one thing that's like, ooh, that's how they can get teams. Stephen F. Austin, yeah, they're 86th in the net, 89th at KenPom. They're top 70 in strength of record and wins above bubble. But if you go look at, like their KenPom ratings and everything, they're 103rd on offense, 80th on defense, top 25 in ball securities. They don't turn it over too much. They're top 50 in offensive rebounding. But I think that's very much relative to their competition. They're very undersized relative to high majors, at least. Now, if you're a Razorback fan, you'll like this. Stephen F. Austin is 248th in the country in 2-point percentage. And they're 235th in block percentage allowed. So that is not the type of team, theoretically, who would punish you inside, which has been the big issue for the Razorback defense. They're also one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the country, under 69%. Their 5-man, he's 6'9", 200 pounds. Gerald Colonel. Now, he's a very, very good shot blocker at his size, but 200 pounds, that's giving up a lot there. And his backup at the 5 is 6'6", 230 pounds. So Arkansas would have a massive size and also athleticism advantage. They do have an excellent 3-point defense. Stephen F. Austin does. They're number 5 in the country. Is that a product of their competition? Maybe, partly. I don't know. But if you played the entire year and you're holding teams under 30% from 3, you're pretty good at it. They've got 3 volume shooters, Cam Burton, Narit Chotakanovic, and Lateef Patrick in their backcourt. So 3 guards who will let it fly out there from 3-point range. Keon Thompson, he's kind of a do-it-all point guard for him. Leads them in scoring at 18 a game, leads them in assists. This is an interesting group on paper. Bunch of JUCO guys. They got a few SWAC transfers that have done well for them. They got some international additions. It's an eclectic group. They're all over the place. Matt Brower has himself a gritty, get-after-it type of team in his first season. And that was one of the things that I kind of noticed about them watching some of their game earlier tonight is max effort guys, super confident, really get after you. They kind of remind me of New Mexico State from a couple years ago. Not as good as the New Mexico State team that Arkansas played. They don't have a Teddy Buckets on that team, but just kind of their demeanor is like they were just rugged, tough, in your face, not intimidated, not scared. That's the kind of vibe I get from Stephen F. Austin. So they wouldn't tuck their tail just by facing the Razorbacks, but significant advantage Hogs if that was something that was able to happen. So we'll see if they get past McNeese And when you hear about McNeese now, you're like, well, shoot, if I'm Arkansas, I don't want to face them. Well, Will Wade ain't there anymore. But they've had a heck of a season in his first year since being out of there. So we'll see what that looks like. We'll keep an eye on it. And then we'll start moving around a little bit to some other outlier seeds. And then once we see what Arkansas does, like, if they beat A&M and then get the showdown with Alabama or whatever, we probably need to start looking at more of these 13s in the event that Arkansas moves up into the 4 range. So we'll do that as well. Still sitting on that 5 line. I looked at the bracket matrix again, and they still got Arkansas as that number 2 5 seed. Right. I mean, just right behind Vanderbilt. And looks like Texas Tech and Kansas are the 2 teams ripe for the passing. St. John's and North Carolina are the other 2 5 seeds, and they're very clearly, I think, behind Arkansas. Now, could that change for St. John's if they go win the Big East tournament? It might, for sure. Same for North Carolina and the ACC, although their path's a little bit more complicated without Caleb Wilson. But it does feel like Arkansas is pretty locked into not being below a 5 seed at this point. Yeah, I saw Joey Brackett's moved the Hogs. He moved them to Tampa, by the way, out of Portland, moved them to Tampa late Tuesday night. He had Arkansas facing Yale, and then most likely Virginia would be that second round team. And that's in that Arizona bracket, which, lots of games to keep an eye on Wednesday. Are we still hate watching? I guess so. Sure. Why not? SEC tournament stuff, not that it really pertains to Arkansas that much, but, LSU, Kentucky, they're opening Wednesday sadness. So it's almost going to be like a hate watch party on Inside Arkansas Live here later today, which, by the way, it's just going to be me and Andrew again. So make sure you come hang out with us. That should be fun, but just get Kentucky out of here, man. Like I'm tired of hearing Mark Pope stumble all over himself. I get irritated with just the bipolar nature of what they've got going on over there. And every fan base has that. Arkansas fans do it to a degree, but man, it's just on a different level over there where you lose one game and it's fire this dude, get him out of here. Incompetent, fire the athletic director. He can't recruit. What are we doing here? This was never going to work. And they'll beat the worst team in the league by like 7 later today in LSU. And then it'll be like, listen, this is this is the Lexington Invitational. It's starting to feel a little bit different. March Pope, baby, here we go. It just cracks me up, man. Get him the hell out of here. Go LSU. Matt McMahon, save your job here today. SMU at Louisville. At this point, you want Louisville to go ahead and get that neutral floor win. That'd be good for them. It'd be good for Arkansas. Secures that quad 1A victory over Louisville for the Razorbacks. No Michael Brown in the ACC tournament, so that's going to be tricky for them. But the Cards are not going to pass the Hogs on the seed list. So this can only serve to strengthen the resume for Arkansas. Mississippi State and Auburn, who cares? Any win for Auburn pushes them a little bit closer to quad 1 status. They're not going to get there. But I just assume they lose so people can quit talking about them being an NCAA tournament team. I think it's ridiculous. Stephen F. Austin, who we just talked about, plays McNeese at 4 p.m. That's not really a hate watch. It's just a team that you might see in the NCAA tournament if you want to check them out. Ole Miss and Texas, that's an interesting game. I'm looking forward to watching that one. It doesn't really impact Arkansas unless one of them emerges from the bottom of that bracket and it makes it to the semis. Like, can one of those teams get through Georgia and Alabama to see you on Saturday? I don't think so, but stranger things have happened. Texas beat Alabama at Alabama earlier this year. BYU and West Virginia. Looking at BYU, they're pretty low on that. They're the last 6 seed, actually. So I don't think that they've got that motion to be able to pass Arkansas on the seed list, but one to keep an eye on just in case. And I think one to keep an eye on in the event that Arkansas, if they move up to a 4, and let's say BYU picks a couple teams off and they wind up a 5, that might be around a 32-ish type matchup for you. So you go watch AJ DeBanza if you want to. And then Oklahoma and South Carolina, I mean, that's certainly one to watch because Arkansas might play either one of them. The winner gets Texas A&M tomorrow, and then the winner of that gets Arkansas on Friday. So we'll keep an eye on it. Oklahoma's playing really, really well right now. Anxious to see what they look like. South Carolina beat them fairly comfortably earlier in the season, so you never really know. You never really know. Okay, I think that's about it for today. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. As always, make sure you tap in with us for Inside Arkansas Live today. And we'll be right back here tomorrow for more of the Pot the Palace. It's been Curtis Wilkerson. And enjoy your day. Enjoy some good ball. We'll see you in the morning.